What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's have a trade that happened in baseball. Not the biggest trade in the world, but it involved a pretty big time prospect. Con came out of left field. The Bulls and Red Sox acquire Johan Oviedo, starting pitcher from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They also get two prospects, left-handed pitcher Tyler Samaniego and catcher Adonis Guzman. They send their number three prospect, outfielder Jahosixon Garcia, also known as the Password, because his first name is very hard to say. It's been nicknamed him the Password, as well as Jesus Trevieso, another prospect who was thrown into that trade. I think this is a really good trade for the Pirates. Oviedo's not a bad pitcher. 2023 had a decent year for the Pirates, had like a 4.3 ERA. Ended up having Tommy John, I think either late in that season or right after the season, so he did not pitch in 2024. Came back late last year in August and pitched pretty well down the stretch. He went 40 in the third, I think, last year, had a 3.57 ERA. So he's a solid back of the rotation starter. He goes to the Red Sox. San Diego's one of the pieces that Boston also got. He's probably a reliever. He's been a reliever for his entire minor league tenure. Last year had a 3.99 ERA in 30 games. Out of the bullpen, he started in rookie ball, ended up finishing in Double A. Was mainly in Double A last year. Pitched pretty well out of the bullpen, so maybe he'll be a bullpen option at some point this season for Boston. Let's see, he is still only he's actually already 26 years old, so not a whole lot to see there. He was drafted in 2021. Actually, he was drafted a little bit later than most guys. He was drafted when he was, it looks like, 22 years old by Pittsburgh, 15th round out of South Alabama. So could be a potential solid relief pitcher at some point. Guzman's basically a throw-in, the catcher. I think he was only recently drafted. Trevor Ace was also only 18 years old. Don't really know what he is yet. But Garcia is a very good prospect. Had seven at bats with the big league club for Boston last year. Was not very productive. Only had seven at bats though. But last year, he had a very good year between Double A and Triple A. There's a good chance he will be on the opening, maybe not the opening day roster, but it's possible. Especially in Pittsburgh, with no change in Boston now in Pittsburgh, it's possible. But I'm assuming he'll be an everyday player for the Pirates sooner rather than later. That's a good move, though. I think for the Pittsburgh Pirates, for Boston, I mean, you pick up some starting pitching depth. Oviedo could be in their opening day rotation. But I wouldn't have given up your third best prospect for him. Granted, they have a huge logjam in the outfield with Roman Anthony, Wilyer Abreu, all those guys, with Rafaela, Jaron Duran. The reason that Jaron Duran and Wilyer Abreu are on a trade block because they just have too many guys. They still have enough spots. Plus, they have other holes to fill. They can use a guy like Jaron Duran to maybe fill a hole in the rotation or in the bullpen, maybe at first base or second base. Those are the biggest holes on their team, I would say. Traded for Johan Oviedo. That's a bit of a surprise. I would not have traded the password, your third best prospect who could have been used to maybe get a guy like Joe Ryan to help headline your rotation with Garrett Crochet. I would have traded him, for a guy who might be your fourth or fifth starter this year. I think they have a lot of arms. Obviously, Crochet is your ace. You already made a trade to get Sonny Gray from St. Louis. You have Brian Bayo there. Now you bring in Oviedo. You have a couple of young guys, Conley Early being probably the headliner of those. He started the playoff game against the Yankees last season. Carter Crawford's coming off the injury list. He was out last year with Tommy John. You'll have him at some point. So you have a lot of arms. They're kind of in the same place the Mets are. It's a little bit of a better spot because you have an ace. The Mets obviously don't. You have a lot of arms. Like you have plenty of depth. You just, you need some more firepower. You have a legit ace. Brian Bayo's a good pitcher. You're bringing Sonny Gray. You just need me one more legit second starter. So we'll see how that plays out. But Oviedo is now at Boston Red Sox. And moving on, let's talk Thursday Night Football from last night. Detroit Lions defeat the Dallas Cowboys 44-30. As I expected at least, it was a shootout. Lions up 29 at the half. Didn't really look back. Goff 25-34 for 309 yards and a touchdown. Big game on the ground for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, three rushing touchdowns. 6 carries, 60 yards on a touchdown for David Montgomery at 35-yard. score. Amon-Ra, who surprisingly played in the game. A lot of people didn't think he would play because he got hurt last week in the Thanksgiving loss to Green Bay. 6 catches, 92 yards. 7 catches, 96 yards for J-Mo. Also, 7 catches, 77 yards for Jahmyr Gibbs. Big win for the Detroit Lions.
This is gigantic. 2nd and 10. Montgomery breaking tackles. Inside the 10, he goes to the end zone for the touchdown. 2nd down and 8. To the end zone, open touchdown.
Out with a concussion.
2nd and 5. Prescott throwing wide open, and into the end zone is Flanoy. Looking for the deuce. Dancing, moving, throws, and that is hauled in. You go to Ferguson on the right side. Goff in the pocket. Goff fires, caught on the run, and taking it inside the 30, Jameson Williams, another big play. Bell makes the tackle. 2nd down and 7. Gibbs. You can only bottle him up so long. Touchdown.
Scoring game, but the Lions, they didn't dominate. They were controlled pretty much the whole way. Up 10-6 late in the second quarter. David Montgomery breakthrough. That was some really bad tackling from the Dallas Cowboys. Montgomery breakthrough for a big touchdown. Then it's 20-9. First drive of the second half. Isaac Tesla catches a score from Goff. Later it's 30-19. Dak throws a touchdown wide open. Man, it gets the 2-point conversion to Jake Ferguson. But the Lions, they couldn't get any stops. Obviously, fourth quarter, 3rd and 6, Goff with the big play to J-Mo, and then Jahmyr Gibbs with the touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs has 47 career touchdowns. That ties Barry Sanders' NFL record for the most touchdowns before turning 24 in NFL history. The guy is absolutely incredible. I would argue he's the best back in the league. Jonathan Taylor the last few weeks has struggled. You think of Christian McCaffrey at this point in his career, Derrick Henry at this point in his career. I think the best back in the league is Jahmyr Gibbs. He's extremely explosive. He's as explosive as a back as I've ever seen. That's coming to the league right out of college in a while. His ability to run between the tackles, bounces outside, the explosiveness he has once he gets into the open field. His pass catching ability, the ability to line up as a receiver is such a huge weapon to have at a running back. Kind of reminds me of like a Christian McCaffrey in his prime, or even like a Marshall Faulk or LaDainian Tomlinson. The guy is just a completely different breed. And big win for the Lions. They get to 8-5. They had lost again. It would have pretty much been curtains for them for their season. You came in, 2 games out of a wild card spot. You're a game out of the division. Bears and Packers are playing each other this week on Sunday. So big win for the Lions. Dallas 6-1. People are saying this defense is fixed because they beat. Who they beat? They didn't give up that many points to some bad teams. You didn't give up a lot of points to the freaking Raiders and their clown show offense. You held the Eagles scoreless for like the entire second half plus. That's a struggling offense. But then again, you give up 28 to the Chiefs in the win, but that is a good offense. And you get lit up by the Lions. Lions have probably a top offense in the game, but their defense, it's not fixed, guys. It's not fixed. They give up, 20 points a game over the 3-game win streak. I mean, it's better than the third they were giving up. Obviously, that's not a bad mark, but look at the offenses that they were playing. And it was really those first 2 games, the clown shows, the Raiders, the whatever the hell's going on in Philadelphia. As good as they are, that offense is not very good. And then, the Chiefs were able to score points on them. Obviously, the Lions absolutely lit them up. The defense with Quinn Williams is a little bit better. It's not the second or third worst defense in football, but it's still a bottom 10 defense in the league. It's still not very good. At 6-6-1, I think they're done. That's probably a wrap for them. You came in, the wild card's almost out of reach. You're just hoping that Philadelphia continues to collapse. Assuming they win against the Chargers on Monday night, I still think they do, even though Jalen Carr's not going to play in the game. Chargers have a zillion injuries. Herbert's going to be playing through a broken hand in his non-throwing arm, on his non-throwing hand. That'll pretty much be it for the Dallas Cowboys. So another year down the drain, it looks like. For Dallas Cowboys for year 29 in a row. But next thing I want to talk about, I got to talk about Penn State football. What on earth is going on with Penn State? So in October, they decided to fire James Franklin. James Franklin had been there for a long time and had him as a consistently good team and a contender in the Big Ten. Last year, they were in the Big Ten championship game. You were in the semifinals in the college football playoff. You went 10-2. Then this year, well, obviously you couldn't win the big one under James Franklin. So you lose a couple of games to unranked teams that you shouldn't have lost. You're sitting at 3-3, and you fire him. Okay, I get why it was time for him to go. Made sense. How did you do that without a plan in mind? How did you not have at least one guy in mind that you thought, one, you wanted to hire, could be the guy to take the next step, to take your program to the next step, which is a national championship, and two, was gettable? Like, I'm sure anyone would want a guy like Ryan Day or Kirby for the coach of our team, but like, those guys aren't leaving their postings. Like, that's not going to happen. I don't know what their athletic director, Pat Kraft, is doing. I won't be surprised if he gets fired soon if he can't find a legit coach. So this is how their search has gone. They spoke to Urban Meyer. The report is they couldn't agree on the NIL money he would have to spend on the roster. I'm not sure if I even buy that. They probably called him like, "Hey, would you be interested?" And he probably said, "No, don't want to run a coach anymore, but I'll recommend X, Y, and Z." Probably recommended Brian Hartline, the House's wide receiver coach, maybe the greatest the talent seeker of the wide receiver position in college football history. And he was their offensive coordinator this year. He just took the South Florida job. And they probably they go after Hartline. They didn't get him. They were talking to Mike Elko from Texas A&M. Looked like they were finalizing a deal. Didn't work. It fell through. He decided to stay at A&M. To reach out to Kurt Cignetti in Indiana. He said, "I'm not leaving." I get why you called him. He was never leaving Indiana. He gets an extension. They reached out to Matt Rule from Nebraska. Matt Rule said, "Nah, I'm good." He signed an extension to stay at Nebraska. Reached out to Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Why you leave Notre Dame? I have no idea. He said, "No, I want to leave." They reached out to Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri, and he'd rather stay at Missouri than coach Penn State. They reached out to Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. Again, these are all good coaches. Drink's done a great job. Clark Lee's done a good job at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt might make the college football playoff this year. They probably should be in, to be honest. I figure, well, we found James Franklin was a good coach for us. He came from Vanderbilt. Let's try his guy who replaced him, and Clark Lee. Couldn't get him. They were hoping that Kevin DeBoer would lose to Auburn, and then they would be able to pressure him to leave Alabama for Penn State. Kevin DeBoer wins. He's not going to be leaving Alabama. At least not yet. They were looking at Lincoln Riley to hire him away from USC. His agent, about a week ago, said, "Nah, he's good." They tried to hire Klein Sitaki from BYU. They were getting close to hiring him. And then all of a sudden, the Crumble Cookie. Yes, the Crumble Cookie, the chain, not restaurant, but company that they sell those big cookies. Uh, he's the CEO of Crumble Cookie. He's a big BYU alum. So him and all his little Mormon friends, they all offered BYU fans free tickets to games to support the coach, and made sure that he stayed at BYU to the point where Sataki goes, "You know what? I like the support I'm getting." He decided to sign an extension to stay in Mormon country at BYU and coach Penn State. Went after Chesney, the JMU coach, and couldn't get him. He ended up taking a job wherever, UCLA or wherever he took a job. This is a complete crap show by Penn State. Rumor is a little while ago Matt Campbell at Iowa State, they made him an offer. It is 1:10 Eastern time in the afternoon when I'm filming this. So if he accepts the job in the next few hours, as of right now, he has not accepted yet. Let me just double check my phone. Don't believe he has. Oh, wait a minute. So they're working toward a deal for him to become next head coach. So it's not finalized yet. Still need to work out financials and some other things. But it looks like Penn State's going to hire Matt Campbell. That's not a bit higher. I do like Matt Campbell. I think he's a good coach. He's done a good job at Iowa State. But this is also like their 10th choice, if maybe not their 15th choice. Just absolutely embarrassing search that Penn State conducted. So you do all about James Franklin. He went 10-2 pretty much every single year. 9-10 every single year. And Penn State is not a school like, Ohio State something like that. For they've like recently been in the national championship picture. Besides last year, where they were in the college football playoff, and you were in the semifinal. But for the last 30 years, you've not been a national title contender. Like you've had a couple years where maybe you snuck into the 14 playoff and got your brains beat in the first round. That's as far as you went. You're always a very good team. You'd be a top 15, maybe 10 team in the country. You compete in the Big Ten. You were never as good as Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, Clemson when they were up at the top. You were never one of those schools. You haven't been in like 30 years. So is it really that bad going 9-3, 10-2, being in the Big Ten title picture, being the college football playoff picture every single year? I don't think that's that bad. I really don't. Okay, and like Franklin, yes, it was time for you to take the next step, but like you have to have a guy in mind. You can't just be like, oh, we're just gonna call every single coach who's in a great position and hope that they leave for some reason. But yes, Kurt Cignetti should have been your first call. I'm sure he was one of the first call, but why would you leave Indiana? You couldn't even get a guy like Matt Rule or Drink or Clark Lee to leave where they were. You were banking on like Kalen DeBoer losing to 5-loss Auburn and pressure him to maybe take the job. Like, what are you doing? I heard that maybe they would try to go after Brian Dabo, who the Giants just fired because he's coaching in the Northeast for so long. He won a Natty as a coordinator at Alabama. There was people saying that maybe if Mike Tomlin got fired, they would wait to try and hire him. If the Steelers fired him after the season next month, just why? But it looks like it'll be Matt Campbell, but just a despicable source by Penn State. Oh, by the way, because they don't have a coach, their recruiting class, we just had National Signing Day, ranks 155th in the country. They had two commits. Two players commit to Penn State. Two. Two. By the way, James Franklin's Virginia Tech class ranked 23rd, top 25 in the country. Probably because everyone who had already committed to Penn State followed him to Virginia Tech, and he probably got a bunch of other commits as well. And let's look at some of the schools that had better recruiting class, and most of them had more commits than Penn State. South Dakota State, Murray State, Jackson State, Weber State, Central Arkansas, West Georgia, Towson, Idaho State, UAB, Howard, Utah Tech, McNeese, North Dakota State, Columbia, Montana, Akron, Montana State, Ball State, Middle Tennessee. I can do this for days. What a just pathetic sham of a head coach search. And Penn State just completely exploded their program. I would not be surprised if they're like 4-8 next year. I would not be surprised in the slightest. Finish off today's show. I'm going to talk about potential NBA trade candidates. Obviously, still early on in the season, only about a quarter into the season. Most teams have played roughly 20 games or so. But there's been we're at the point where rumors are starting to swirl, speculation starting to ramp up of guys that could get moved based on just a whole bunch of things. So I want to go through all those names now. So obviously, I think we should address the elephant in the room first. Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, it's been a couple of years now, really ever since, almost feels like ever since they won a championship. We were like, all right, how long is this guy going to stay in Milwaukee? Last 3 years, he's lost in the first round. You don't really have any draft picks because he gave it all up for Damian Lillard. You don't have much cap space because Giannis on a super max deal. Dame was on a max deal. You're paying him a ton of money to sit on the sidelines with the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously you're paying Miles Turner a lot of money, so you have no real assets. The team isn't very good. You're not even in the playing right now. Then Giannis was hurt, but this whole offseason there was like, oh, is he gonna stay? Is he gonna go? There was rumors that he wasn't happy there. He was thinking about requesting a trade. He had a bunch of conversations with Milwaukee. Ends up not getting traded after all that talk. There was rumors he might go to the Knicks. Then it recently came out that Giannis is meeting with the Bucks brass to discuss whether his future should be in Milwaukee or somewhere else, and they would come to a conclusion in the next few weeks. Brian Windhorst reported that he told the Bucks, "I don't want to be here, and I'd like to play for the Knicks." That's something that came out, whether it's true or not, or how possible that is a whole other story. Obviously, fortunately, he strained his calf in 2 games ago. It was like the same day that the report came out. It was really bad timing, unfortunately. He's gonna be out 2 to 4 weeks. Talked about that. I think it was yesterday that I talked about that. But I think it's possible that he gets traded. I think it's like when Kevin Durant was with the Nets, Giannis isn't causing as much, shenanigans as KD was in Brooklyn. He got traded to the Suns. Y'all thought, all right, this thing in Brooklyn, it has not worked out. Kyrie had already gotten traded the season prior. Harden, they believe, had already gotten moved. And it was like, all right, look like that was going to happen in the offseason, but just, got to the point where, like, he was like, all right, he requested a trade, and, Contra coming out, they're like, we have to get something from this guy. He ends up going to the Phoenix Suns. They get back a couple of young players, get back all those picks. Uh, for Milwaukee, you have to get something for Giannis. He's due what, a ton of money next year. He's due like 58 million, something like that next year. He's a player option the following year. His player option is worth over $62 million, but knowing Giannis might be like, he might want a longer deal. Giannis is 30 years old. He's gonna be what? He's 31. So we could hit the market at 33 and still get a crazy 5-year deal, possibly worth over 300 to $400 million. I think he's gonna do that. So I think you have to trade him because, like, there's nothing there. Like, I like Miles Turner, good stretch five to have. You know, Ryan Rollins just played well this year. He's pretty good. AJ Green's not a bad player, but other than that, there's nothing there. Chris Middleton's long gone. Damian Lillard's not there anymore. Obviously, Drew Holiday was traded for Damian Lillard several years ago. Just there's nothing they can do. Trade him for something. I've heard a lot of crazy mock trades for him. Not sure if any of them are going to happen. When it comes to the Knicks, this is where the McHale registry really bites them in the backside. They would have had the picks to get him. Now it's going to be tough. You have to trade away every pick that you have. But I would say something like I'm not sure if Cat would be in a trade. Maybe OG and Hart, or Cat and Hart, and then you give them your pick this year, 28 and 32, maybe a swap in 2030, something like that. If they can do that, we'll say OG and Hart for argument's sakes. Now your lineup is, we'll say, Brunson, maybe Deuce moves into the starting lineup. Mikal Bridges, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns. So now you obviously get yourself a superstar to pair up with Jalen Brunson. That Brunson and Giannis duo could be really, really scary. Now you have Karl Anthony Towns, where they can settle in. I think he's best as like a number three scoring option, as opposed to a number two scoring option. We saw in the playoffs last year. I don't think he's number two scoring option on a championship team. He was in Minnesota. He has been with the Knicks. It's now year two with the New York Knicks. So now, and although I do think Jalen Brunson is the number one scoring option, I don't think his height should have anything to do with that. It is easier for a guy 6'3" and short to be play a little bit more off the ball uh, than it is to have the ball in their hands the whole time. Although Brunson is one of the best isolation players in all of basketball. Now you have those three guys. Mikal Bridges is a good player. Obviously, he's not worth 5 first-round draft picks, but good player. He's having a good year. Great wing defender. Can shoot the ball. He's a good player. Great free shooter. Plays every game. And then, even though OGs is a great player, uh, great defender, all NBA defender, can shoot the three. Very good wing to have on your squad. Hart's a really good player. Fan favorite. Great defender. Can do a little bit of everything. Worth giving up for Giannis Antetokounmpo. You still have a lot of those backcourt pieces. You still have Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench. You'll have Landry Shamet back at some point this year. You will have Trevor Kolak is playing pretty well. You maybe have just some of the best size in the league with Giannis and Cat both in the starting lineup. Now Mitchell Robinson can settle into a bench role. You have Gershon, you have Aselli on the bench, you have Porty on the bench. So a ton of size. May to go out and bring in another piece, another wing on the bench. Your only real wing you have is Mikal Bridges, like true wing, with OG and Hart getting moved. But that would be my mock trade for Giannis, something like that. Maybe it's Cat and Hart instead. I don't know, but that's Something like that is what it's going to take to get Giannis. Other teams that could do it, I think Atlanta could do it. You give him Trae Young, Porzingis' expiring deal, maybe Asa Newell. You have the draft picks. If you can do that while keeping Jalen Johnson, while keeping, no, they got a bunch of young guys. They're definitely going to want to keep Jalen Johnson. Okengwu is a young big one that you have that's very good. Reese Shea, that was the first pick last year. You can keep a bunch of these guys. Dyson Daniels was Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. I think maybe was most improved player last year. He's really good, only getting better. If you can keep Reese Shea, Daniels, and Jalen Johnson, you still have Okongwu. You add Giannis. Atlanta all of a sudden comes from a team like, all right, in a weak Eastern Conference that could make the playoffs to this is a real threat to come out of the Eastern Conference and win a championship. And also the Spurs, that's a team that just they could easily do it and still have an elite team. Like they could, that's the team that can most easily truly improve with Giannis in terms of bringing him in, how big your window is now, the depth you still have, how the assets that you still have available to continue to add to the roster. Like putting him and Wembanyama together, that doesn't even seem fair. Like you think, all right, you give them a Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle, you give them, we'll say, Vassell, maybe Sochin, a couple picks, and all of a sudden you're looking at De'Aaron Fox, Giannis, and Wemby. Plus, you still have one of Castle and you still have one of Castle and Dylan Harper. You still have some pieces there. Harrison Barnes is a good role player, so that would still be a loaded team. This is a Spurs that's already even Wembanyama hurt. Fox is just coming back. They're fourth from the Western Conference. A healthy Wemby, healthy Fox, Giannis, and still some other role pieces. That Spurs team should be the favorite to win it all. Maybe outside the Oklahoma State Thunder. I would take the Spurs to win it all if they can do Harper, Castle, maybe Vassell, Sochan, and picks for Giannis. Maybe the Bucks give up Kyle Kuzma in that trade as well. I would do that in a heartbeat if I was the San Antonio Spurs. So Giannis is the big piece. I think the Kings are going to have some sort of fire sale. You have to. You absolutely suck. If he's healthy, Sabonis should get traded. Sabonis is a very good player. Very underrated. He's still 29 years old. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's due $45.4 million next year and $48.6 million in 2028. The crazy thing is that today's NBA contract, that's a lot of money. It's not even that much money compared to so many of these other guys. In today's NBA, that's how crazy the NBA money is. But Sabonis is a all-star big man, great in the pick and roll, one of the best talented offensive big men in all of the NBA. Great, great rebounders, a double-double machine. I think the Knicks would benefit from him. He'd be an upgrade over Mitchell Robinson. Cat can still play the four. I think Toronto makes a lot of sense for Domantas Sabonis. I think they need one more really good big man. I think getting Sabonis would be a lot of help for them. Maybe Atlanta. Maybe you send on Conwell the other way. You put him next to Kristaps Porzingis. If Atlanta is really serious, I like that for them. So Sabonis, if he's healthy, outside of Giannis, might be the one of the top, maybe the top trade target. Just because he'll be probably the most gettable outside. I don't know what yet he's gonna have with Giannis. He's probably the best player in the world that you think you kind of snap your fingers and put together a package. Because Sacramento's just gonna tear the whole thing down. And speaking of tearing the whole thing down, Zach LaVine, they gotta try and get something for. He feels like a guy that should get moved. Excuse me, I'm just typing on my computer. I'm trying to, match up contracts and things like that. My little database. So LaVine, this year he makes $47.4 million. Next year he has a player option worth nearly $49 million. And then he hits the market. I'd be shocked if the odds out of that. There is no chance in hell he gets 50 million a year on the open market. I cannot imagine. Unless he wants a longer deal, maybe like, all right, I can maybe get 40 million on a long-term deal. I don't know why you give Zach LaVine 40 million. I'm not sure why the Bulls ever did it. Or anybody would ever do that. Levine's a good player. Like, he's averaging almost 20 points a game. He's shooting 48% from the field, like 37, 38% from threes. Like, he's a good player, but doesn't play a whole lot of defense. He's always hurt. But he's a very good, like, second or third option. In Sacramento, with nobody, especially with Sabonis hurt, he's kind of the number one option. He's kind of a black hole out there. But you put him next to insert anybody, really, uh, all of a sudden, he's going to be a much better player. He's just going to fit better. Your team will get better as a result. So uh, he shouldn't be that expensive because I mean he's got one more year on his deal. He's due almost 49 million, which he really isn't worth, to be honest. The defensive limitations, the health problems that he's had. No, right now is 30 years old. So he won't be that expensive, to be honest. I think I've always thought Detroit would make a lot of sense. They need a legit number two next to Cade Cunningham. I honestly think, uh, like to make like I'm not even sure like Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris in the first might even be too much to give up. Like I don't know, they gotta make the money work. I'm not sure if Tobias Harris would get the job done. You may have to throw in like a guy like Isaiah Stewart or Jaden Ivey just to make the money work. Maybe one first round, that's about all it would take to get him, probably. I think Detroit would make a lot of sense. I've been saying it since the offseason. I think Zach LaVine will be a really good fit in Detroit. Next to, I think he'd be a nice number two option next to Cade Cunningham for the Detroit Pistons. So he's a guy, they gotta try and get something for him. I think DeMar DeRozan, they have to get something for as well. DeRozan is not the same player. It's weird because first career he's only like a 30% three-point shooter for his career, but he's actually shooting like 36 or 37% from three this season, which is kind of odd. But he's still a good player. DeRozan is much older. He is 36 years old, I believe. Let me check that. Yeah, he is 36. He has one more year on his deal. He's due $25.7 million next year, which is actually a pretty fair salary considering some of these other contracts in the NBA. He's averaging 18 points a game this year, shooting 49% from the field, 37% from three. First career, he's not normally a guy who shoots that well from three. He's a 30% three-point shooter for his career. He shot 32% last season, but he's shooting really well this year. He's still a solid player. I think a solid third scoring option. He only has one more year left on this deal at a little under $26 million. He'll be 37 next year. He's a guy that also won't be that expensive. So if you're looking to add another scorer to the repertoire, you're looking no further than DeMar DeRozan. I think the Bulls are going to be a team that sells pretty heavily. They've really struggled since a hot start. I mean, they've been a mediocre basketball team for a while now. A couple of young pieces I like, Josh Giddey, I assume Matas Buzelis. But Kobe White is a pending free agent. Kobe White's really good. He's averaging 24 points a game. He's a really good point guard. He's developed into a really good player for them. But I just think I don't think he'll resign. I think he's a guy who will have a lot of contenders really going all out for his services this summer. He's a guy you could probably get something for. You could probably get a first round pick for him. And I mean, the Bulls, they trade Alex Caruso, DeRozan, LaVine. They lost all three guys for no picks. At least they got Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, which is a good trade. But LaVine, they didn't get a whole lot back. They got DeRozan really well for nothing in a Simon trade. You got like certainly recouping some draft picks for these guys. And also, Nikola Vucevic is the guy that you have to move. He's not what he once was. He's still a good player. He's averaging 16, 9, almost 10 rebounds a game, but not what he once was. But he's still a very good starting center. Can still give you 20 and 10 now and then. Also a pending free agent. Going to be a free agent. He's 35 years old. But someone who wants a little bit of an upgrade. At the center position. A team like maybe the Knicks or the Raptors, if they can't get the bunch of Sabonis, I think Vooch would be a very good fullback option for them. And a couple other names I have on here that I think could be available, some big names. I don't know if they'll get dealt. One of them is LaMelo Ball. So he recently went to the Charlotte Hornets so that he would prefer to be traded, so kind of like a light trade request. Uh, I'm not a big LaMelo Ball guy. I've always thought he's a bit overrated. But he has turned himself into a really good player, for sure. Problem is, he does not play a whole lot of defense, and he is always hurt. He has not played a full season ever, actually. He's never played 80 games. He has not played more than 47 games in a season since 2022. That was 3 years ago. But for his career, he's a 21 point a game scorer. He's a 36% three-point shooter for his career. Only shot 33% last year. He's shooting just 29% right now. But for his career, has shot 36% from three for his career. So he's a bit of a streaky shooter. Overall, he's a good scorer who can shoot a three. He is a great passer. He averages 7.5 assists for his career. He's averaging almost 9 assists per game this season, which is a career high. He is a very good point guard. He is still just 24 years old. A lot of money left. He's got 3 years left on his deal. He's due $40.7 million next year. The year after that, he's due $43.5 million. In 2029, he's due $46.3 million. So he's got 3 years left on this deal. He's still just 24 years old. He's one of the best young point guards in the game. Problem is, he doesn't play any defense, and he's always hurt. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to get like the maximum return for him because of the health issues with him. I feel like somebody will bite because they're like, a franchise point guard at 24 years of age with 3 years left on their contract. It's making a lot of money, but it's compared to some of these other deals, it's not that bad. I think somebody will bite. I really do. You're Charlotte, you suck. You're starting to kind of put the piece together. Brandon Miller is really good. Con Newpel, that guy is shooting the lights out. I think he's a rookie of the year. He has been outstanding this year. He's been just out of his world good. So you have some young pieces. Miles Bridges is a good player. So you have a couple of young pieces. I like Charles Lee, the coach. But you gotta, right now, you're just kind of rebuilding through a draft. That's going to take a while. I think you maybe have to speed up this rebuild if you can get, a couple of really good assets for LaMelo Ball, get back a bunch of draft picks. So I would probably pull the trigger if I'm the Charlotte Hornets. And another guy is Ja Morant. So Ja is probably even more complicated. Ja has, I don't know what to do with him, honestly. He's almost like he's washed, but he's not old. He's 26 years of age. This is a guy who obviously was a highlight reel at Murray State, second overall pick by Memphis. Right away was a star. He averaged, in 2022, he averaged 27 points a game, was an MVP candidate, was an All-NBA guy, was most improved player. The year after that, he averaged 26 points a game. But since then, 2024, was suspended for a while, comes back, was looking really good. Then he gets hurt, breaks his hand, is out for the year, only plays 9 games. Last year, injuries limited him to just 50 games. He averaged 23 points a game. And then this year, he's not even averaging 18 points a game. He is shooting just 16% from the field. And I think, oh, well, he probably doesn't shoot a lot of threes. He has on 5 attempts a game. On 5 attempts per game, Ja Morant is shooting 16%. First career, Ja is a 31% three-point shooter. He's never shot more than 34% from three. That was in his career in 2022 when he averaged 27 points a game. I don't think he's number one option. As like a second option, I think you can live with him. Uh, he's got health concerns, obviously limitations defensively. He obviously had the off the court stuff as well. That he's kind of quiet down. He's still got some weird, you know, uh, basket celebrations. He had that really bad press conference. The Grizzlies they got suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies for a game last month. But they got to trade him. From Memphis, you missed your window. Start over. Obviously, you make a coaching change. You got 4 first-round picks and KCP, who's a decent player for Desmond Bain. You will not get 4 first for John Morant. Now, he is 26, and he's got 2 years left on his deal. He's going to do 42 million plus next year. In 28, he's due 44, almost $49 million. I don't think he's worth that kind of money, but again, and becoming something crazy is what you expect. He's still 26. A few years ago, he was emerging as one of the premier players in all of basketball. Obviously, an astounding athlete, but he can't shoot a three. That doesn't defend. Always hurt off the court stuff. I do think they won't be able to get a ton from him. I think LaMelo Ball will definitely bring back more for the Charlotte Hornets than Java for the Grizzlies. But you got to get something for John Morant. I would love to move this guy. And these next 2 I think are going to be pretty hard to move. One of them is Anthony Davis. I think this is pretty obvious what I'm about to say here. AD is one of the most talented, one of the most pure talented power forwards the league's ever seen. Injuries, injuries, injuries. He's hurt right now. The guy is always hurt. He is due almost $50.5 million next year. By the way, he's 30 years old. Next year, he's due almost $50.5 million. Has a player option in 2028 when he'll be 34 for almost $63 million. I cannot imagine he's turning that money down at 34 years of age. So I'm not sure what he'll get, but you gotta get something for him if you're Dallas, I think. I know you thought, having him healthy going into the year with draft Cooper Flag and all these other pieces, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, and Caleb Martin, you get Kyrie back second half of the year. This could be a good team. By next year, you could be a title contender. It's not working. AD's already hurt. Kyrie's still hurt. And now there's all these role players don't have a captain. Cooper Flag is playing that position. It's not working. Trade him. He's not getting any younger. Injuries are only going to pile up more. He's just not a reliable player. He's not the same player. He's still a great player. Can still go and get you 25 and 10. He's still a great defender, but he's just never healthy. He's not, a guy he's not a top 5 player in the league anymore. Maybe he's a top 25 to 30 player in the league, but he's not a top 5 player in the league. He hasn't been in years. I would get something for Anthony Davis. Problem is, because of his health and his age and the money, I think his return will be a little bit limited, but you got to get something for him. And another guy on the list, Zion Williamson. By the way, I'm ready to say it. Zion Williamson is a bust. He was compared to LeBron James coming out of school. Granted, that was a bit ridiculous, but they were still there. Zion, it's a joke with playing. He's already hurt again. He's going to be out another 3 weeks. And the Pelicans are a joke. Okay, the team sucks. You have no first-round pick next year because you traded up to get Derek Queen. You have all these bigs. You have Queen and Kevon Looney who don't really fit together. Zion's a very good player. He's averaging 22, 5, and 4 this year. Averages 24, 6, and 4 for his career. Shooting 51% from the field, but he can't stretch the floor. He can't shoot a 3. He's always hurt. Not a good defender. He's had, some attitude problems, some off-the-court stuff happen. But still 25 years old. He's due $42 million next year. Almost $45 million in 2028. Somebody will bite. Somebody will bite. You have to get something for Zion. Recoup some of the picks that you gave up last year. And another guy who is a great player is, going to, probably going to move, I think. Really should get moved. But is probably a guy who I think is relatively gettable. Lauri Markkanen with the Utah Jazz. I think they should trade him. I wouldn't have even signed him last year. Gonna be completely honest, I would not have signed him. I would have traded him last year instead of signing him. But last year I had a bit of a down year. I think this year he's been a bit better, and he's back to being that great player. And I think he will get moved. This year, he's averaging 28 points a game and 6 boards, shooting 47% from the field, 36% from three, 90% from the line. Laurie's having the best year of his career. He's still 28 years old. Now, on that big extension, he's got 3 years left. He's due $46 million in 27, almost $50 million in 28. He's due about $53.5 million in 2029. So he's on a big contract, but he's got 3 years left. A little bit more overpaid, but he is really good. I think he's an excellent number two option on a lot of different teams. You pair him with a really good point guard. This is going to happen because you have to move Cat to the five, but the Knicks, I think he would fit really well next to Jalen Brunson. I like him in Atlanta playing with Trae Young. No, I think that would be a good fit. So we shall see what happens. I even like him in Detroit playing with Kate Cunningham. They already have a lot of bigs over there with Jim Duran and Isaiah Stewart. That being said, if you have Duran, Cade, and Laurie, that's a nice big three there. But I think this is a guy who get a ton back. If you're Utah, you're really young. You're starting to kind of put the pieces together. Then you kind of shook up your core in the offseason. You trade Colin Sexton to Charlotte. You buy out Jordan Clarkson. You have some young pieces there like Ace Bailey and Taylor Hendricks. You're kind of still seeing what these guys are. Trade Laurie, get back a couple of your young pieces, get back some nice assets, get back some draft picks, and truly dive into this rebuild. That's gone a lot slower than we originally thought when they got all they got back for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell a couple of seasons ago. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you all have a nice weekend. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.